This video is for YouTube subscriber LambYah1. Excuse me. Just getting back to some questions that you asked me on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to try to address the questions with to the best of my ability, the knowledge that I have. First question was why the blood atones for the flesh. And the first scripture I want to point out is Leviticus 17:11. It says, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls, for it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul." So the answer to that question lies in this passage. It says, because the life of the flesh is in the blood. And so in the law, we talk about the law, life for life, an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, a life for life. So as a part of the atonement, the Most High allows that exchange to be made through the process of the sacrificial offering of the lamb, which may promote a question where someone may ask, well, why don't you offer sacrifices now? In a nutshell, it's because we don't have a temple, and number two, we don't have priesthood. Okay, so you can have priesthood and not have a temple. Now, those of us that understand the purpose of the law, the purpose of the law was never to make you righteous. The purpose of the law was to serve as a reminder for us to walk in obedience to the Most High. And so that's what that was all about. Now, when the first man, Adam, and his wife Kawah had sinned against the Most High, what did the Most High do? Genesis 3:21 says, "Unto Adam also and to his wife did Yah make coats of skins and clothe them." So the skins was a cover. As a result of man's sinful ways, the Most High offered the first sacrifice and then covered them with coats of skins. Okay, so there you have the life for the life. To spare the life, the Most High offered the first sacrifice for the first man and first woman. Okay, and hopefully that brought some clarity. Let's go here to Exodus. Pardon me. Exodus 29:36. "And thou shalt offer every day a bullock for sin offering for atonement, and thou shalt cleanse the altar when thou hast made an atonement for it, and thou shalt anoint it to sanctify it." So the atonement offering was offered every day. It was more of a fellowship, because man cannot fellowship with the Most High in a sinful state. So the atonement was offered as a cover so that man can fellowship with the Most High. So as it says here, "Thou shalt cleanse the altar when thou hast made an atonement for it, and thou shalt anoint it to sanctify it." Okay. Now the Most High said, "Be ye holy, for I am holy." Be you set apart. That's how we were set apart, to be able to commune and to fellowship with the Most High. So the sacrifices was all about worship and having a communion with the Most High. Okay, Exodus 30:10 says, "And Aaron shall make an atonement upon the horns of it once in the year with the blood of the sin offering of atonements." Okay, once in the year shall he make atonement upon it through your generations. It is most holy unto Yah. Now I want to go to Exodus 30:10 in the Esword. Okay. We're going to look at the language and see. It says, Aharon shall make atonement. The word atonement is the word kafar, which means to cover. Now, we were talking about, I mentioned earlier about cover. So you can see right here, Aharon shall make an atonement. And if you go down here, it's the word kafar. It says to cover, specifically with bitumen, figuratively to expiate or to condone, to placate or to cancel, right? So that's what that atonement was. Atonement was a cover, right? So the cover was upon the horns of it. Aharon should make atonement upon the horns. Okay, so now what is the horns all about? Okay, the horns is the word. Can you see that? It's kirin. And it says a horn as projecting by implication a flask, a cornet by resemblance an elephant's tooth. So the horn, the ram's horn, is significant of many things. Calling of a solemn assembly, right? To warn when things are about to happen, or for the gathering, because Revelation talks about the seven trumpets, which is going to be blown, and then the Most High is going to gather Israel after the seventh trumpet. So the horn, when he sprinkled the when he makes atonement upon the horns, right? The horns is symbolic of like I just shared, gathering of Israel, and is also symbolic of purging the life. The horns is also symbolic. You have two horns, just like you have two ears. Two ears, two eyes. That's symbolic of consecrating that mind of the Israelite to make preparation for Israel to be gathered back to the Most High. Okay, we have to be purged, right? Now, he says, upon the horns of it, once in the year, with the blood of the sin offering. Okay, so which is going to lead to another, I'm going to do another video where we're going to actually deal with the different types of offering. This one here is the sin offering, right? So sin offering is the word kata, which means it says an offense, right? An offender, when someone breaks the law, right? And this is not a repetitious, willful, conscious disobedience of the law. This is when someone breaks the law through ignorance. And we're going to do that in the lesson. We're going to break that down. But so the blood of the sin offering of atonements, it says here, once in the year shall he make atonement upon it through your generations. It is the most holy unto Yah. So that's what you call the national repentance. So that once a year is significant in gathering, because that's why we have the Feast of Tabernacles, because as Israelites, we believe that when the Most High gathers us, it's going to be right around the time of the tabernacles. Okay? Now, let's go back to the questions here. Psalms 46 says, sacrifices and offerings thou did not desire. Mine ears has thou opened. See that? So we're talking about the horns, is significant opening up of the ears, consecration of the ears. For thou hast opened mine ears, and hast thou opened burnt offerings and sin offerings hast thou not required. Okay? Psalm 51:16 says, for thou desirest not sacrifice, else would I give it. Thou delightest not in burnt offerings. 54:6 says, I will freely sacrifice unto thee. I will praise thy name, O Yah, for it is good. Okay? So just kind of being repetitious about what these sacrifices were for. Right? They basically was an entryway to us into worshiping of the Father. It was a cleansing and a covering for us. Okay. I'm not going to read the rest. There's a bunch of references I do have. I'll give you these references that I have if you want me to. Let's see. Let's read this one here, Romans 5:11. And not only so, but we also joy in Elohim through our Master Yeshua, by whom we have now received the atonement. So that's basically what I said earlier about why we don't offer sacrificial animals anymore, because they were a shadow of Yeshua, and we don't have a temple, and we don't have any priests. Okay, now, what we become the priesthood, that's what the Most High's desire was from the beginning, was for us to be the priesthood. And 1 Peter 2:5, it says, you also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house and a holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifice acceptable to Yah by Yeshua the Messiah. So we are the priesthood to offer up the spiritual sacrifices. And what are those spiritual sacrifices? Okay. Let me go to my e-sword. So 1 Peter 2:5. Okay, and then 2:6 is wherefore also is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion chief cornerstone, elect precious, and he that believe on him shall not be ashamed. Okay, now I wanted to point out how we do the spiritual sacrifices, and that is found in Hebrews 13:15, which says, by him therefore let us offer the sacrifice of praise unto Yah continually, that is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. So that's the spiritual sacrifice. That's why I was saying that the sacrificial sacrifices were designed to prep us for worship of the Most High and fellowship. Okay. Question 2. Now that was all one question. Okay, question 2. Why without the shedding of blood there is no remission of sin? Okay. So Hebrews 9:22 says, in almost all things that are by law purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission of sin. So why is that? Okay, so in Leviticus 6:7 it says, the priest shall make an atonement for him before Yah, and it shall be forgiven him for anything of all that he have done in trespassing therein. So I kind of addressed this already in the first question, but it is the blood, that the life is in the blood, and so a life for a life. So by us being born in sin, being born under Adam, we have the inherited nature of sin, and so life for a life is we offer a sacrifice, which is the atonement, which is what the Most High did with the first Adam and Kawah. Okay. The blood speaks. Blood is a spiritual force, and blood speaks. And in Genesis 4:10 it says, and he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. So blood speaks, right? And that's the reason why the blood has to remit, because when an innocent blood victim has been wrongfully murdered, there has to be some atonement, because that blood is a spiritual entity that speaks judgment. There's a judgment attached or associated with every blood that is innocent blood that is shed, right? So that's why there is no remission of sin. And when you say what do you mean when you say remission? There is no removal of sin, and there is no shedding of blood. That blood there has to be some kind of a judgment. Somebody has to pay the penalty for that blood that was shed. Okay? In Exodus 21:22, it says, if men strive and hurt a woman with a child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished according to the woman's husband, according to as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine, right? So, like I said, there's a life for a life and a blood for a blood, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. And that's how the judicial system works. The Most High's judicial system works with blood, innocent blood that's being shed. Okay. Now we have question 3, which says, can you please expound on how and why sacrificial blood of the offering was sanctioned and instituted by Yah? Okay. In a nutshell, because when the children of Israel sinned a great sin against the Most High, he was going to destroy the whole nation. So the sacrificial system was added so that the Most High extended grace into the nation of Israel, and I kind of addressed that in another lesson. But the Most High told Moshe that he's going to destroy them. And I think I kind of cover a little bit in a couple of these verses here. It says, Yah said to Moshe, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, and that I may consume them, and I will make of thee a great nation. And Moshe besought Yah his Elohim, and said, Yah, why doth thy wrath wax hot against thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt, with great power and with a mighty hand? So that's what it was. So the Most High, instead of him killing off the whole nation of Israel, as he did in the days of Noah, he offered the sacrificial system to spare them from having to reap the judgment of being destroyed. Okay, now next question is, in your opinion, is death and the fear of death our inheritance from Adam Kawhi? And death, yeah, absolutely, because it says in, I think it's Corinthians, it says, for as by one man's sin entered into the world, and death by sin entered. So all have sinned and come short is because of the first man, Adam. Okay? So because of that, as you said, you already know the answer, but nobody wants to die. So Hebrews 2:15 says, and delivering them who through fear of death were their lifetime subject to bondage. Right? Okay? Okay, that's Romans 5:12. I quoted. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin shall pass upon all, for all have sinned. Okay, so that is the last part. Now, this other part, you asked question 4. You said, I would like for you to do a lesson on the significance and meaning of the different sacrifices: trespass offering, sin offering, wave, etc. Okay, the symbolism of the horn, I kind of dealt with that already. The significance of the blood being put on the horns, I dealt with that. And poured at the base. That we'll deal with that in the upcoming lesson on the sacrifices. The blood on the right ear, basically, it's the same as with the horns. It's for consecration. For the ear is symbolic of the gate that goes into the mind. So it's actually purging the mind. It's symbolic of the ruach, purging the mind of the individual priest that was going to do service in the temple. Okay, right thumb and the big right toe, all of that has to do with the toe has to do with the walk. The thumb has to do with the deeds, right? A righteous man has to walk a righteous walk. A righteous man has to do the righteous deed. So when you talk about the thumb, when you talk about the toe or the foot, the right toe, you're talking about righteous walk and righteous deeds. Okay, so prayerfully I shed some light on some of the things you had questions on, and once again, this sacrifice, the different types of sacrifice, we're going to do an extensive lesson on that prayerfully this Shabbat. All right, shalom.